Hello, I hope you are doing well and welcome back to another cloud computing class. Today it's all about Kubernetes. Let's see how we can use Kubernetes and how we can actually create an application that can scale on Kubernetes. Now, before we talk about Kubernetes, let's see how we can organize our space so we can start working with today's tutorial. First of all, I am in Google Cloud Platform and I have my Docker VM from the previous class. Just open here a new SSH window and you will see here something like that, right? So you are already in your Google Cloud VM and your Docker user is ready. Now what I have to do here, always just remember to switch to the Docker user and use the dash in order to make sure that you switch to the Docker user home directory. So as you can see here, this is exactly what I did, all right? Now, I will have also to use for today's class the Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is the place that we can actually push our images and store our images, okay? Now, an image, it should be a Docker image, so we need to create it first and then push it into the Docker Hub. The Docker image can be public or private, meaning that we can actually give it to everybody or we can have it as a private repo for only for us to use it whenever we need it. So it's a good idea to be very careful when we have, for example, an env file with usernames and passwords there. Avoid pushing this to a public repository. Go on the Docker Hub, so hub.docker.com, sign up with your email and create a simple account so you can actually have access to the repository. Now, in my case, I just created my username and password. I'm already logged in and I'm in the Docker Hub, so I can start creating my repositories and my images. Alright, so in this moment, please pause this video and go and create a new Docker Hub account. Now, considering the fact that you have your Docker Hub account, let's continue. The next step for me, it will be to go here in my Google Cloud Platform, make sure you have your Docker user ready for you, okay? And we have Docker already installed from the previous class, so we are ready to go in our case. Now, bring your tutorial next to you so you will always follow the steps, know exactly what we need to do. There are a lot of code here that we need to take and move it to our image, see how it works. So first of all, I have to log in here and then I will have to make sure I'm cloning a repo that I found here. This is called the minihi.git. It's one of the repositories that I already did. Let's examine it a little bit together. So this minihi is just a public repository I created myself. The only thing it does, it has an app.js file that I created to print on screen hello world. Okay, so it's a hello world message that eventually I want to containerize. So I want to take this application and containerize it. Now, how we'll do that, it's a different story. But let's see. Now, the minihi is just only this thing. You can just go here in the code and you can find here the GitHub link to clone. In my case, I will just take it from here. Just clone this link. I will go back to my Google Cloud here. I will clear my screen and I will clone this minihi app. So minihi app is here. Let me enter in the folder and just ls-l and I can see that I have this app.js and I can just cut and see that it's just a hello world message. Cloud at Birberg is fun. I hope it is. Now let me go back to my tutorial. So what I did, I just cloned my first app from GitHub. I have it ready here. As you can see, this is a server running in 3000. And that's the port that we have to remember because when we create our containers, we need to map this with the container port. We'll see how this happens. For the moment, what I will do, I will create a new Docker file as we did in the previous class. And as you can see, I have it here. So you don't have really to create it. I just have it inside here in this package. So in the minihi application, there is a file called Docker file. It's exactly the same Docker file that we used in the previous class. So we can just use it. We don't have to create it in our case, just to save time. So what we'll do, let's go back to my virtual machine and let me bring also my tutorial here. Let's create a new image. Okay, I will create my new image. So my image, when I build it, I will have to build it and I have to say that this is an image now for the Docker Hub. This means that I have to follow a specific format. To build my image, I will need to remember my Docker Hub username. Well, it's quite easy. It's go here, and this is your Cloud BBK. and mine is Cloud BBK. That's fine. Now let me go back to my tutorial and to my Google Cloud. So let me just find the window here. You have a lot of windows opened. So I think it's this one. All right, and this one is my tutorial. Okay, so let me clear the screen and let's build our image. So let me just put it a little bit up, increase the size. All right, so what we'll do, I will just run the command, okay? Docker image build -t. Your username, that in my case you can see it behind, is Cloud BBK, and then you will have a name. It could be, for example, mini high, why not? Mini high, and then it will be a version that will be, for example, version 1, and then a dot that I always forget. That means use all the data that I have in this folder. All right. So this will build my image. Let's do this. Okay. It's fine. It's very fast, right? We have our image now ready. So we built just an image, and that's the name. Imagine always that this image will now be on the Docker Hub and everybody can actually see it. All right. Before we do that, make sure you have here your username following this username. Okay. /mini high version 1. All right. So we have this ready. Now what we'll do, let's go here in my repo and create a new repository. So create repository. It says here, Cloud BBK. It has the command here, how you can tag, how you can push. We'll see it in a second. But okay, if I bring back my tutorial, I think somewhere at the beginning, right here, you can see here the example. I say, my app is my mini high, so I can call it mini high. All right, and some description here, a hello world container. All right, and I would say here cloud at Birkbeck. In my case, you can add your own text. This will be public, so everybody will see it. That's it. Click create. So I just have a name for my container repository image and then a description and create. Okay, I have my repository ready. My repository is empty, as you can see here. I don't have any kind of action yet. Well, let's see how will happen this. Let's go back to my tutorial. And I was just here, I think it's step number 8, that I was planning to push my image that is called Cloud BBK Mini High to the Docker Hub, okay? And then hopefully everybody will have access to this. Clear your screen. And let's try it. Docker push. Well, I will push my Cloud BBK, that's my username here, all right? And my image is called mini high. Mini high. Okay, I don't run this yet because probably it will fail. And probably the question is, where are you supposed to put this? All right. So if I just run this, it says, access to the resources denied. You have somehow to log into your Docker. Now, to log into your Docker, I will go again up to my tutorial. I think it's here. Well, in my case, is Docker login. My username, that is Cloud BBK. So we need to log in, obviously. Add your password. Okay, your password will be stored. It's okay, that's fine. And now let's do it one more time. So bring the previous command and then just press enter. Okay, it looks that something is happening, and let's see if we were able to push our image inside the Docker Hub. Okay, it says digest. All right, that looks good. Let me refresh the page here. And let's see if we have our image here. And yes, we have version 1. It's a Linux operating system and was a few seconds ago actually. And we can have our image there. Great stuff, right? And this is a public image. So let me go just down here and resume our discussion about pushing images to the Docker Hub. We just have to create an image, log into Docker, and then push it. Simple as that. Okay? Good. Now let's search for it to see, we expect this to be available for everybody, right? So probably you can search mine and you can say here sudo docker search and just put your username here. I will use my username, Cloud BBK. And well, I don't need actually to run the sudo here, right? Just let me just delete the sudo because I'm already logged in as Docker user, right? Okay, it seems that there is an image called Cloud BBK Mini High, and this is, as you can see, a Hello World container. It works. Our image is there. You can clear the screen now, and you can find out all other images, right? You can find, for example, an image that I created myself sometime before under the username SteliosOT, and still is there. It's another Mini High instance of this application, of the same application. Right, so I can find my images on the Docker Hub. Everybody can find it now. It's public. Cool stuff. All right, let's proceed. So now the next step for us is to move to Kubernetes. So we have our image there. We can use it in order to deploy it whenever we need. Okay, let's do this. First of all, this window, I will just minimize it. I don't think I will use it again, but just keep it as it is. And let's go back to the Google Cloud. Now, just click on the Google Cloud Platform icon on the top left corner, and here, let's type the word Kubernetes. The Kubernetes Engine is the environment of Kubernetes that we will use in the Google Cloud Platform. So what Kubernetes will do will allow us to deploy our software and to scale to any kind of demand. We can have millions of users using our software, and we can scale by just pressing an enter. I will show you how. Right, so here it says enable the API. Yes, I have to enable, so click on enable. And hopefully soon we will have access to Kubernetes Engine. While this is enabled, just let me go back to the tutorial. And just to clarify here that the GKE is the Google Kubernetes Engine, and also called GKE, that we will use in our case to create our Kubernetes environment. Now this is also created here. What I will do, I will just open another window of the Google Cloud Platform. So you can just right click here and open a new window or a tab. And here is your Google Cloud Platform as well. So you have two windows. One here it says Kubernetes Engine, and the other is in just Google Cloud Platform in the main window. All right, so it seems that I have something here that says Kubernetes clusters. I don't have anything, but hopefully I will create something soon. So I will go back to my tutorial. I will just follow the steps here. It says now move to Kubernetes, and let's create our Kubernetes cluster. The name will be my GKE cluster, so let me copy this to have it. And we will deploy 3 nodes by default. Always, by the default configuration includes 3 nodes. All right, so let's click on create. I will select the GKE standard, so configure this. And Kubernetes cluster will take up to 5 minutes to be deployed, so it's not something we can do in seconds, so it might take some time. But that's fine, we'll wait. Okay, name. The name is my GKE cluster. Name must be lowercase, numbers, and hyphens. Okay, so I will just maybe call it something different. I will call it my GKE cluster with lowercase, something like that. So you cannot have capital letters. Location type zonal. All right. I don't care about this. Release channel is if you want to update it or have a static version of this. I don't really care. What I care is if I go here in the default pool, just click on the default pool, you will see that by default I have 3 nodes. What is node? Node is an environment that I will use in order to deploy my containers. If I have 3 nodes, means I have a lot of space to deploy in different systems, okay, different VMs, let's consider it. We can have here a lot, right? We can have 10, 20, but as we increase the size, we pay more, obviously, so we have to be a little bit careful. So I will leave it as it is. I will not do anything else, and hopefully while in the class we'll discuss more about these things here. But what we need only is the cluster configuration, the basic name, and that should be fine. I will click create, and now we'll have to wait. So it will take up to 5 minutes to have our cluster ready, and when the cluster is ready, we will resume our session. While the cluster is developed, I will go back to my tutorial and prepare myself. So what we'll do, to connect to the cluster and to run commands, we need to use a tool that is called kubectl. Now, we can download it, install this in our computer, connect to the cluster, all right, and run our commands. Or we can run it directly from the Google Cloud Platform. That's the easiest way, that is what we'll do today. So go here and just find here the Cloud Shell. You can see here it says activate Cloud Shell, this window. Just click on it. And this window here, it will start populating, all right? And this is actually a terminal inside Google Cloud for your own user that you already use to log into Google Cloud, like a virtual environment for you to use to connect to any service provided by Google to run commands, including Kubernetes in our case. So while my Kubernetes cluster is created and while my Cloud Shell is already activated, I will go back to my tutorial and I will continue here carefully from now on, because we'll need to connect to the Kubernetes cluster using this terminal. So activate the Cloud Shell and wait for the cluster to be ready. I can see here my Google Cloud Shell, all right, and we run commands here that they called gcloud. And here the Kubernetes cluster is already in process, so it's been created. Okay, so let's wait and see. Okay, my cluster is ready. It took 5 minutes time, right? So I have it here. My GKE cluster is ready. Okay, so I can click on it just to examine what I have here. I have a Kubernetes cluster that is pre-deployed for me in the Kubernetes Engine of Google. And I can see some details here about my cluster and networking stuff, and a lot of things that we don't really know yet, but we will explore slowly. Now, one of the most important parts of the cluster, if I go back again, is here on the 3 actions, we have an option that is called connect. So this is how we connect to the cluster. So click on this connect, and you will see here this long command that is gcloud container clusters, etc. Meaning that this is a command to connect to this cluster. Just click on it, copy or this one, okay. And let's go back to my Cloud Shell. I can increase this window so I can have a lot of space here to do my commands. All right, let me also increase a little bit the size. Now, paste the command and press enter. Now, this command will actually ask you now to authorize your access to this Kubernetes cluster. I will click authorize. And everything now, it's fine. I was just connected to my Kubernetes cluster. I didn't change anything here. You can see I'm still the same user in the same environment, but now I have access to this environment. Now, what I will do, I will just bring back my commands from here. All right. Let me just change a little bit the size of my window. And so I can see my commands on the left side. I can follow the tutorial. Okay. So I will also increase the size to the top. Now, I will first check we're using this kubectl command. Let's see the nodes that we have here. Okay, I say I created 3 nodes. So do I really have 3 nodes? And what are these 3 nodes? Yes, there are 3 nodes here created like 2 minutes before. And these 3 nodes called like these names, all right, will be able to host my containers. So these are virtual machines that I will use to host my containers. All right, so let's use the kubectl command to get some cluster info. And let's see here what we can see here. Okay, you have a cluster running. This is your IP. Okay, I don't have anything yet, so actually I cannot use this IP, but I will plot something in a while. And that's fine. Everything looks that is running, and that's fine. Okay, now let's do this. Let's create a pod and add inside a container. All right, if you remember, we created a container. We have it in our Docker Hub. The container is called Cloud BBK Mini High. That's my container. So I want this container to be deployed in this Kubernetes cluster. That's called my GKE cluster. Right, let's go to Google Cloud Shell. So to do this, you have to run this command. kubectl, run your mini high pod. I will call it mini high pod. And the image, all right, the image equals, okay. In my case, I will use Cloud BBK, or you can use your own user, or you can use the Stelios OT. It's another image, so it's already there, so you can actually use it. Mini high 1. So I will use my image to create a pod. Let's press enter, and it says the image has been used and your pod is created. So what I created a small environment, running environment of my container inside one of these 3 nodes to run my application. Actually, I cannot see it yet, but I have to do some extra configurations. But in any case, my app, it should be there. So I can say kubectl, get the pods to see what I'm having running. And it says, yes, you have one mini high pod is running and is active for 23 seconds. Now, cool stuff. Your application actually runs on top of the Kubernetes, right? Easy as that. We didn't do anything else here. We just installed a new cluster of Kubernetes and we say, I have an application. Let's see how this works. Now, let me describe here. So let me use the kubectl command to describe my pods. See what I can see here. So I can see that I created a pod and it's called mini high pod on the top. It's in this particular node, so it's in the node that finishes with db. So if I go back here, I will see that this is the third node. All right, so the third node for this one. The container ID is this one. There is an image that is called cloud.bbk mini high. I can also see here an IP. This is the internal IP. When you see 10.108, whatever is an internal IP. It's not a public IP, so we can connect only using Kubernetes. Actually, this is internal. All right, we'll see how we can map this to an external IP. But for the moment, we can also see other information here, successfully assigned. You pull the image, here are the events happening, right? What you did. You assign a pod, you pull your image, you build your image, you run your image, and then you actually have it running. Cool stuff. Let's proceed. Now, since this is running and I cannot really see it, what I will do, I will create a deployment file, and this deployment file will help me do everything automatically, meaning that I want to run a container inside my Kubernetes environment, but I don't want to run only one container. I want to run, for example, 10 containers. Okay, and these 10 containers will have some configuration. For example, it has to be the mini high application, and also these containers should map the port of 3000 of my node.js to the application port of the container, for example 80 in my case, as we did in the previous class with the Docker file, something similar. So first of all, I will clear my screen and I will use this file that I have here, right? We don't have to type all these things, we can just copy and paste. Now let's create a new file that is called mini high deployment.yaml. Okay, this is a YAML file, and again just check the name, mini high deployment.yaml. All right, press enter, and now let's copy everything from here. This is my deployment file, and just paste it here, and let's examine it together. So this is a deployment file. This is the kind. Its name is mini high deployment. The application is called mini high. I want 3 replicas of the application, so I will have 3 replicas of my application, and then probably I will need a load balancer at the top to distribute the traffic to these 3 replicas. And we'll see how we do this in a second. I want also to have this image that is called Stelios OT mini high. If you want here, you can go and adapt, and you can just add your own image. It could be, for example, Cloud BBK, the one that I have, or even you can use the same. In my case, I will just use the same. This is an image that I created like a week ago, and I just posted it on the Docker Hub, so it should be fine. You can use it. The container port is 3000, just to know that where my application is running at port 3000. All right, Control S, Control X. Let's cut the file just to make sure that we have it completely and fine. All right, we have our file ready. Now let's continue here. First of all, one thing that we need to do is let's delete. All right, let's delete the pods that we created before, the mini high pod. All right, that I created before. I don't want it anymore. I just created to see that I can create a pod and just run it. But in reality, I want to use a deployment file from now on. I don't want to run commands every time I want to deploy a pod. All right, so I just run my deployment file, and that should be fine. Now I will delete my pod, and then I will go here and we will apply our deployment file when this is ready. When this is ready means that we need to wait for this to finish with the deletion process, and well, hopefully soon it will be ready. Okay, it took like a minute or so to delete, right? Now, what we'll do now, we will apply the mini high deployment file to my Kubernetes. This means that I want to have 3 replicas of this particular image that I gave you in the deployment file of this port that I also specify is port 3000. Let's do this. Kubectl, apply this file that is called mini high deployment. All right, and let's press enter. All right. Deployments created. Good stuff. So I created now 3 pods inside the 3 nodes to run my application. Get pods. Kubectl get pods. Let's get the pods. Yes, we have 3 pods running. All right, great stuff. So instead of having one application, I have 3. Now let's do this. Why we don't do this? Why we don't edit the file all right, and change this from 3 to 10. So let's say we have a lot of traffic and it's like craziness in our website, and we want to increase the number of my nodes. I don't want to have 3 nodes, I can have 10 nodes. So I can go here and say, let's edit this with Pico, and let's say, I want 10 replicas. So it's easy as that, right? I can increase Control S, Control X, and then just apply one more time your deployment file. And now the new deployment is created. Let me clear my screen. And if I say here, get my pods, I should have 10 pods now. So I was able to deploy 10 pods and 10 running containers inside of the same application. Now let's continue and see how we'll access actually the application, because for the moment we just see here what is happening. Now there is another command, the kubectl get pods, and I can say here, give me the wide view. So this kubectl command gives you some extra information. Let me clear my screen, and what I will do is I will continue now to the next step. So I will go here to step 28. Now what we have by now, we have 10 nodes that are running, and I can say here kubectl get my pods. I have these 10 nodes, but the reality is, how do I access this as a user? So I have these 10 nodes. Every container running runs inside a pod, and we need to access this pod. I cannot access it because I need something to help me. And this something to help me is a load balancer. So I will have a load balancer at the top and all my nodes at the bottom. So I will hit the load balancer will tell me, okay, go to this guy or go to this guy, right? So a load balancer will actually manage my traffic to these pods that run my containers. Again, I have one container per pod, and that's the correct configuration for me. All right, let's do this. So what I will do, I will say pico, create a file called mini high service YAML. That's my configuration file. I will select all this text here from step number 28. Just add it here. So add it here. Make sure you have it correctly, because I think I forgot here to have this API version for some reason. So I didn't select it correctly. So app API version v1. This is a service. Service means load balancer. Your name of the load balancer would be mini high service. The type is load balancer, as you can see here. The port is 80, the port of the pod, and the port of the container is 3000. So we need to map these two. So we have to go from port 80 to port 3000 to enter in my container. If you remember, my node.js app runs on port 3000. Other than this, the only thing I have to say here is that my app is called MiniHigh, and this is the same name as I used in my deployment. So if I go here up in my deployments, somewhere here I say that the app name is called MiniHigh. You can see here my label is MiniHigh. So this deployment file for the service, for the load balancer, is for the MiniHigh app. And this is how you actually link the load balancer with the apps, because you might have different apps there. Now let me go down here. Let me just save this, Control S, Control X. Okay, so we just saved this file, and let me cut this file to see how it looks like. Alright, it looks fine. Just make sure you copy correctly all the part of the text. Just double check if you miss a small configuration. If you have an error here, you will fail to run your deployments. Okay, that's fine now. Let's go to the next step. Let's apply this configuration and let's see how it works. So let's go kubectl, apply, and use this file that is called mini-high service YAML. All right, press enter. Now your mini service is already created, and what we can do is we can say now kubectl get your services, and now you have two services. You have your Kubernetes cluster running there, and you have your mini-high service, and this is the mini-high service that you created. As you can see here, there is an external IP only for the load balancer, because as a user we go to the load balancer, and the load balancer, using the internal IP, we can actually connect to the nodes. Right now you can see here it's pending. Well, let's do it one more time. So it will take up to 5 minutes, let's say, to have an external IP here. So you will need to watch this and run it again and again and again. There is a command that can actually help you to have it always on, to wait for it. But in any case, we can just run the same command again and again until we see the external IP. As you can see here, I saw my external IP. Yes, it's here. All right. So let's copy this. And what we'll do now? Well, I will go back to my window here. and I will give it a go. Yes, I have my message here. I deployed my container using the Docker Hub on top of Kubernetes. My application is running there, and this hello world message comes from one of these 10 replicas that I have. That's good. How amazing is this? We were able to replicate this easily. Now, let me go here to my commands and let me clear my screen. Again, this kubectl or kubectl get services will show you the IP of the load balancer, and this load balancer, every time you press enter here, it hits a different node of these 10 replicas of the same application that you just deployed. You can have millions of users using this, and always the traffic will be distributed between these nodes. Now, one of the things that we have here, as I say here, oh my god, is what can go wrong. Well, what can go wrong is that I want to make a change. Now, if you want to make a change, imagine you have thousands of nodes running. Well, how you will do that? How you can actually connect all these thousands of nodes and make this small change? Well, for example, a new version of your software came out. Well, with Kubernetes, it's actually very easy. What we will do? First of all, we will go here and we will edit our configuration file that is called mini-high deployment. All right, .yaml. So mini-high deployment.yaml. And this deployment.yaml has my configuration here. Just press enter. All right. You don't have to put the YAML actually, and it should be fine. All right. So just take out the YAML. So what you have to do, you have to find here the image name that you need to update. Okay. Now, when I enter in this editor, now I am in a VI editor that is a little bit different than Pico. So it works on different pace. I will need to have obviously a new container image to use. What I did, I created a new image, a new version of my software. I push it to the Docker Hub. And then having this image to the Docker Hub, I was able actually to use this image. My application is called mini-high 2. This is something that I created, right? So again, if we want to update our application, what we have to do is to create a new image container, store it in the Docker Hub, and we just need to edit our configuration file in Docker. All right, so let's go back to Docker and say now, okay, I want to update my application to the new container, image in this case. Okay, just go down with your buttons and just find here your image. So my image is my mini-high 1. I don't want mini-high 1, I want mini-high 2 because mini-high 2 has the newest version of my software. Now, to change here your file, you need to follow the same steps. All right, let's do this. Press A. So you press A. So when you press A, you are in insert. You can see here the insert message. Go at the end and delete 1 and make it 2. Okay. What else should I do? Well, I can also go down here and see other things. Like, for example, I can see here, the ports. I can see the replicas that are 10. I don't want 10 replicas. I want now 15 because I have more users. So I want to update my software and increase the number of replicas to 15. All right? That's it. That's the two basic updates that I want to do. Okay, now let's follow the process carefully. Press escape. You can see that you lost the insert there. All right, so we press escape. Press the colon symbol. All right, you can see at the bottom left corner. W for write, Q for quit, and the exclamation mark. And press enter. And now I was able to edit my file. Again, I press enter, colon, and then I press WQ, Q for quit, the exclamation mark, and enter. And I was able to exit. Now, I was able to exit, and at the same time, I was able to edit my configuration file and apply the changes. So let's see how we apply the changes. Let's see the services here. I have services running. Let's see my pods. How many pods should I have now? So let's get the pods. Wow, I have 15 pods now running instead of 10 that I had before. And you can see that these are terminating and these are starting. So terminate the old and start a new fresh installation. In our case, what we did, we also update the software using the new container. How easy was that, right? We should be able to update our software as we go with the new image by just updating the image name. And then we should be able to actually push it into our Kubernetes system. Now, if I go back to my website, the new message, it will be something different because I wanted to have here something version 2. Let me run this, and it says Birbeck is cool. That's version 2. From fun, we move to cool. And I was able to change this. How fast and how efficient was this, right? I was able to deploy 15 images of the updated version with just pressing an enter. I just did small configurations, okay? Let me go back to my file here. One more time, we can go here and let me clear my screen. This file, again, this mini high deployment that before it was a YAML file, now it's actually the deployment configuration. We have to just go here and change, again, one more time, you go down, you will find somewhere here the number of replicas, that is 15 as you can see, and the name of the image that we can have to change. If we want to exit this file, again, we can press escape. In this case, we don't need to write, we can just put quit and exclamation mark to exit. So I was able to edit my deployment file. Right, so I have now running and I was able to see that these are terminating and my application is updated. You can see here I have the new version up and running. And that's all about Kubernetes, right? So we were able to just, let me increase the size of the window, to deploy 3 nodes, and 3 nodes have total 6 CPUs, and to cope with high demand by increasing the size of my cluster in terms of nodes. I can go here now and I can change the cluster and can add more nodes here that will actually eventually will host more pods, and these pods will have more containers. And always I have my service here, so if I go here in the services, I will see my load balancer. This is the mini high service, this is your endpoint and your load balancer running, and you can actually see that is okay, it works fine. But we did everything using the command line. Alright, this is an external load balancer. Okay, so we did a lot of work. We should be proud of ourselves because now we know how to use Kubernetes to do the basic things. Obviously, we just scratched the surface of Kubernetes. There are so many things to use. In our case, we just want to deploy our app and see how this works. One thing that we should not forget is that the Kubernetes engine is quite expensive. If we go back to the clusters, we'll see that we deployed 3 VMs, so it's an environment that is costly for us. So if we deploy this and we are happy and we don't want to use it anymore, it's a good idea to delete it. So enter in your cluster, here in your GKE cluster, and delete it by just clicking delete button. Delete your cluster, yes, and this will delete your cluster. Again, do not let your cluster running. Make sure you delete it if you finish this tutorial. And if you want to use it again tomorrow, for example, that's fine. You can just stop it and use it again. I would recommend you to just delete it to have it always as a fresh new environment if you want. Now, also what you have to do is you have to go to your Google Cloud Engine and to the compute engine in our case and stop our VM. My VM, I use this VM called Docker VM. Somewhere here you will see that I have my 3 nodes now that I will delete. So literally I have 3 more VMs to host my service. So I will stop also this Docker VM. Just let me stop it. And that should be fine. Now I deleted my cluster, I stopped my VM. Hopefully I will not spend my $50 in one day. All right. Now, one thing to remember always is that we can use the Docker VM to push our images to the Docker Hub, or we can install Docker locally in our computer, and we can do it. So for example, we write our code in node.js, then we have Git installed, we have Docker installed in our laptop, and we can say, push my image to Docker Hub, so I don't have to put it in the GitHub and then take it out and put it in a VM, right? We do this process because I don't want you to install Docker in your computer. Docker could be computationally expensive. This means that you might need a lot of resources to run it. But if you have a normal computer, a normal laptop, feel free to download Docker in your computer. You don't have to push your code in the GitHub. You can create your image directly from your folder and push it in the Docker Hub. Alright, so that would be all, and I will see you soon again in our next session.